Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking multiple hazards across the U.S. this afternoon and evening as storms start to fire up across the middle of the U.S. We're watching for a tornado risk in Kansas City, hail and flooding risk in the southern and northern portion of the U.S., and then of course we're talking about Tropical Storm Erin. But before we get into all of that, I do want to mention the Wind the Storm. Hey, are you guys headed to this? We are headed to Wind the Storm August 20th through the 22nd. That's in Dallas. And we have a fun discount for you if you use the code HAILTRACE, all one word, all capitalized. Whenever you go get your tickets, you get a big discount on those tickets. So that's really exciting. Stop by our booth. But let's go ahead and get into the forecast now. Alrighty, taking a look at your headlines today, Hurricane Erin, right? That was a big headline this morning. Now, it's not a hurricane yet. Tropical Storm Erin is what we have right now, but it is likely to intensify into a hurricane, maybe even a major hurricane by the end of this week. Today, we have a tornado risk for Kansas City. It's a level 1 tornado risk for Kansas City. A few very isolated storms could go severe, spinning up a tornado or two, and we'll talk about the timeline of that, exactly who in Missouri needs to be weather aware. Other than that, hail and flooding are really big headlines from the south to the north. We're expecting that hail and flood risk all the way from Oklahoma and Texas up to North Dakota. Now let's talk about what we saw over the last 24 hours. Man, yesterday Denver was in that hail risk. They had a severe thunderstorm watch up to tennis ball size hail, and all eyes were on Denver yesterday. Unfortunately, those storms were just not impressed with Denver. We had one little storm just to the southwest of the city that started to go up, and I was like, could this be it? Could this be it? It weakened before it got to the city. We did see some larger hailstones farther out to the east in eastern Colorado and in the western side of Nebraska and Kansas. So there's your headlines for yesterday. Now, all of this leftover rain from yesterday, that will help to produce storms later on today. So what we've been watching for is we've been watching for these storms weakening across Kansas City this morning. I do think that we'll see some redevelopment of storms in this area, and we'll see more rain, more showers, more storms in Kansas City this afternoon and evening, some of those going severe. You do have a marginal risk for several isolated severe storms in the Kansas City area and then off to the east. We also have a marginal risk, a level 1 risk farther down to the south into New Mexico, Texas, and across most of Oklahoma. And then farther up to the north, North Dakota and Minnesota, we have another risk for large hail. Now, taking a look at Tuesday, we've actually seen some additional areas in risk here. We've got that level 1, that green area highlighted for Green Bay, Chicago, and then all the way up into Michigan. By Wednesday, we go back into the northern plains, and that's where we stay on Thursday as well. We are looking far out into the work week here with a risk for storms every single day this week. Now, I'm jumping through this pretty quickly here because we've got a lot to talk about on the forecast. So put your weather questions in the comments section, and we'll get to those here in just a few minutes. Now, I want to tailor this forecast to wherever you guys are watching across the U.S. right now. Are you in Kansas City? Are you in Oklahoma? We've got storms for both areas today. Oklahoma City right now sitting at a nice 84. We've actually seen a little bit of a cool down today, and we've seen some cloud cover as well. It's nice to see that cloud cover out there. Give us a little bit of a break from the heat that we felt yesterday. 77 in Kansas City right now. It just gets nicer as you head to the north as temperatures are in the 70s. But even though we're a little bit cooler today, we could still see some storms this afternoon and evening. What about your risks here? You do have a hail risk, especially in the western side of Oklahoma, the panhandle of Texas, and the eastern side of New Mexico. What are we talking about for hail sizes here? Some places look a little bit more impressive than others. You know, we've got some of those darker orange pulling up on the northeastern side of New Mexico. We've got the southeastern side of Colorado trying to sneak a few hailstones in there. Oklahoma not looking terribly impressive here. And then if we go up to the north, you're going to see another chance for some smaller hail. I'm not terribly impressed with this. Maybe we could get something over Fargo today. For the most part, I'm not impressed with that hail chance today. Let's take a look at your hail forecast. Now, I think that the most impressive areas will again be western Oklahoma, all the way into the panhandle of Texas, Tucumcari, that looks pretty impressive for some larger hailstones today. What are we talking about here? Up to golf ball size hail, mainly in the eastern portion of New Mexico. And then as we go farther up to the north in places like Fargo and Grand Rapids, small hail. Yeah, I think you have a pretty good chance for some small hail. You've got that $50 size hail in the level 2 category. But again, I do think that your hail sizes will stay pretty small in this area. Your biggest risk in this area in North Dakota is going to be that wind risk today. And we'll break down each hazard individually. So we started with that hail hazard. I think that the wind hazard is going to be a little bit more widespread here. So your wind risk through Lubbock and Amarillo is going to be your primary concern today. As we get into Oklahoma, have you noticed that it's been a pretty small hail risk, a pretty low hail risk, and a pretty low wind risk as well? What's one of the biggest risks here in Oklahoma today? I think it's going to be that flooding. You know, we could get a few inches of rain in some areas, and something that we've been talking about here among the meteorologists is that we're so dry in Oklahoma right now. That rain is not going to seep into the soil very well. It's going to just run off into the roadways, and it's going to cause a flooding risk. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a few minutes. But I know a lot of people want to get into that Kansas City forecast, because Kansas City, yes, in the path of a tornado risk today, also in the path of a high wind risk. Your hail risk, very, very low. We've got a level 1 for Kansas City, and then we've got a level 2 for places farther out to the east. So I do think that storms are going to fire up right along the highway and then track to the east as we head into the afternoon and evening hours, producing some strong winds in the central portion of Missouri. We also have that strong wind risk farther up to the north in places like North Dakota and Minnesota. Now, these storms today we're not going to talk too much about unless someone is watching from this area. I'm going to skip over this just a little bit here because I really want to focus on KC and I want to focus on Oklahoma and Texas. Your storms farther up to the north are going to be your typical summertime storms. They're going to be strong. Lots of lightning and thunder. A few of them may go severe, but overall a marginal risk for severe weather. Farther down to the south, I want to talk about Kansas City for a minute here. We've got some isolated tornadoes that are possible later on this afternoon and evening. As I mentioned, the storms will go up within the next few hours and continue through the evening hours. Now, for the most part, it's just going to be rain. Typical summertime showers. But I think that we have just enough of the right ingredients in the air that a few of these storms are going to go severe, and we could get some rotation out of this. So we've got the ingredients in place. We'll see exactly what happens today, but a level 1 tornado risk does include Kansas City and then all the way out to the east. Let's talk about timelines here. So here's an overview of your storms today. I'll give you just a minute to get your locations in the chat so that we can talk about every location very specifically. Alrighty, let's go down into Oklahoma now. So starting down in Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. A reminder about the hazards here. What we're watching for here is that larger hail out on the eastern side of New Mexico. As we head into Texas, we're looking for that wind risk, and then as we head into Oklahoma, hail and wind are possible, but it's going to be mainly more of a flooding risk in this area. As we go into the afternoon hours, storms are going to fire up right around 2, 3, maybe as late as 4 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to start to see those really tall towers out in the western side of this risk first. That's where you get your hail risk. Then as we head into the overnight hours, we're going to transfer from a hail to a wind risk here. Lots of rain falling through the overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, and that's where that flooding risk comes in. You can see that even by your morning commute tomorrow, we could still have some lingering showers in Oklahoma City. I mean, through actually a lot of our very populated areas. A few showers in Tulsa all the way down the turnpike there, and then as far south as Wichita Falls. Dallas may even get in on some of those rain chances early tomorrow morning. Now let's go up to Kansas City here. Let's talk about your timeline for that tornado risk again today. As I mentioned, a few isolated storms are going to go up just to the west of the highway here, Highway 35. And then we're going to see one more time with your timeline here. Let me just remind you, you may be at work during this time. So if you have friends at work that maybe don't check the weather during the day, they don't watch the noon forecast, make sure you alert them of this tornado risk. This could catch a few people off guard. So again, storms go up while you're still at work shortly after lunchtime and before dinner time today. To the west of 35 at first, we've got a few isolated storms here. We're going to have a second round later on this evening as we see more storms go up and that coverage increase later on this evening after dinner time and into the overnight hours tonight. We've got much more storm coverage here, so what we're expecting is that flooding risk, it's pretty low, but that high wind risk is what I'm watching for later on in the evening and overnight hours. Moving on to North Dakota, Minnesota here. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about this here. It's a very classic setup. You've got several bands of storms that are expected to come in this evening and into the late night hours. A few of those could produce some small hailstones, but again, I think the main risk here is going to be that wind risk. We can talk about flooding real quick as well. We've got one area pinpointed for flooding, and that's in the eastern portion of the Texas Panhandle, all the way down into Wichita Falls and through the central portion of Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City here, and including Tulsa. Tulsa also on the edge of that level 2 risk. Actually, we can zoom down here. Yeah, let's get your cities in here. Tulsa, OKC, Wichita Falls, we've got Amarillo and Lubbock also included in that level 1 flood risk today. Dallas outside of that flood risk, and that's mainly because storms are going to come in overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. So Dallas is included in tomorrow's level 1 flood risk. Moving on now, let's talk about the tropics. Okay, did you guys see the big news this morning that Tropical Storm Erin, our 5th named storm of the season, is officially named. It's officially recognized out in the Atlantic. So I'm going to skim through the Pacific real quick. We've got one, Henriette, that's just to the north of Hawaii right now. It's a typical fish storm out in the Pacific. And let's move to the Atlantic. Talking about Erin, let's get down right into it. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Did you just notice? Let me zoom back out. Do you see where this is? Here's the U.S. Here's Erin. Now you may say right now, okay, that's your fish storm. It's not going to impact anyone. It's not going to impact anyone right now. However, as we look into the end of this week, this storm inches closer and closer and closer to the U.S. As it does that, it's going to intensify from a tropical storm to a hurricane, potentially becoming a major hurricane by the end of this week, if not this weekend. So as it gets closer to the U.S., we start to talk less and less about it being a fish storm and more about it being potentially impacting your southernmost islands here. And then this time next week, we could be talking about something like the East Coast. Now, it's too soon to tell that. We don't have that information quite yet. Again, we're still out with our spaghetti plots way out in the Atlantic. But we've got a high pressure system setting up to our north. That's going to keep this on a very straight westerly path, and it's going to inch it closer to the U.S. as we get into the later portion of this weekend. So again, we don't have anything to worry about right now, but it is something that I want you to be monitoring, that we're telling you about a week out. This time next week, we could be talking about a completely different story as this thing gets closer and closer to the U.S. And at this point, we are expecting, a lot of models are bringing this into the hurricane zone. We're talking about hurricane category 1, maybe 2. A few models even want to say Cat 3 at this point, okay? So we'll have to see. Again, 7 days out, we cannot tell you exactly what's going to happen. A lot of things are going to change between now and this time next week. So come back for your forecast. We'll have more information every single day as this thing gets closer. Again, we've got Tropical Storm Erin officially on the board. The next to be named will be Fernand. Fernand, do we have that anywhere on the board? Well, it's not looking very promising for Fernand right now. We've got 2 areas, Invest 96L, low pressure system, got some 30-mile-per-hour winds on there, moving to the north at 10 miles an hour. Not too much of a threat to land. It's moving the wrong way to impact the U.S. And then we've got another one in the northern Atlantic here. Not very impressive either. It's still a pretty low chance for formation over the next 5 to 7 days. So really what we're watching for is that southern storm, Tropical Storm Erin. There you go. And there's your forecast. Just a reminder here for everyone that said, oh, it's a slow season, nothing's going to happen this season, 2025, it's kind of a dud. This is very typical for this time of the year. It's very typical to see a lull at the very beginning of the year, and then as we head into the middle of August, that's whenever we really start to see that activity increase. And the National Hurricane Center and hail trace meteorologists have all said that we are still expecting at least an average hurricane season, if not an above average hurricane season. We're starting to see La Nina trickle back into our forecasts as we get into the fall, and that's going to help that Atlantic activity increase. So I do expect to talk more and more about the tropics as we get into the end of August and early September. Now let's move back on land. Let's talk about that severe storm risk. For today, we went over all of our hazards, all of our timelines today. Tomorrow, we have a marginal risk, a level 1 risk across the Midwest. We go back to the plains on both Wednesday and Thursday. There's your forecast. Is it going to cool down at all? A little bit cooler today, a little bit cooler tomorrow, but in the long term, no, it is not going to cool down. I hope you like your summertime temperatures, because even as we get back into the school year, you're kind of seeing the first few glimpses of fall. It's still going to stay hot. Temperatures as we head into the next few days are a little bit cooler than what we saw this weekend. But as we head into the later portion of this week and even early next week, we are likely to stay above average for the middle and end of August. John on here saying from YouTube, thanks for commenting, John. We appreciate you hopping on here, saying it's a pretty slow start to the year. Yeah, I assume you're talking about the hurricane season. It felt like it, right? This time last year, we already had a Category 5 hurricane. That was that Beryl, and it made landfall. It weakened, and then it made landfall in Texas. I think we had a few more named storms that were a little bit more impressive by this time last year. So it's a slow start, but I don't think it's going to be a slow season overall. Great comment there. You guys, let us know if you have any comments or questions on the forecast. We've got tons of meteorologists here at Hail Trace. If I can't answer your question, one of them can. Moving on to your temperatures here. Yes, we're going to stay hot. Unfortunately, it looks like we are going to be warmer than normal as we head into the middle and end of August. How long does that stick around? Do we get any rain with that? Got a little bit of rain for the northern U.S. Western U.S., we've been seeing this trend just over and over and over. Unfortunately, hot and dry is going to contribute to the fire danger out on the western side of the U.S. And that's where we wrap up. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you hopping on for your Monday forecast. We had a lot to talk about today. We had that tornado risk in Kansas City, hail and flooding risk across the southern and northern plains, and then of course Tropical Storm Erin likely to intensify to a hurricane. If you missed any of those headlines after this ends, you can always go back and re-watch this video on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter. But make sure you follow us on all of these platforms throughout the work week as well, because we post there at all hours of the day any weather updates that we can give you. We were posting early this morning about Tropical Storm Erin whenever it was officially named. We also have a Hail Stalkers Facebook page, so if you're not included in that, either send us a DM or find that page on Facebook and get on that page. It's a pretty good page to follow. Give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map at 855-334-4245, or email us at info@hailtrace.com for a setup with your subscription. Hailtrace.com for more information about what we do here. And thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We'll see you back here for your forecast, same time, same place tomorrow.